Hello. How is everyone doing today? I hope you're all doing fantastic. There we go. That's better. I hope everyone's doing great. Welcome to another episode of Ferret Cafe, the live podcast where you, the listener, are the producer. Except for days when I decide not to use people's suggestions, but you can still use sound commands to your pleasure. As long as they fit with what's going on, you know, just like a soundboard person would. Welcome in, everyone. Podcast recorded every Thursday at 8 p.m. Not every Thursday, every other Thursday. What am I saying? Every other Thursday at 8 p.m. if you want to catch it live. If you want to check the VOD out, it's a week after, so pretty much the Thursday after. We're 10 episodes in, and are we going strong? I don't know. Hard to say. Are we going strong or are we going late? I don't know. We're going at some sort of pace here. So I hope everyone's doing good. If you want to sit back, relax, enjoy the show. We're gonna be talking about some things. Mostly, I mean, everything's music related today. I was going to talk about some other stuff, but I decided to make this episode a music-themed episode since we haven't really had one since the Deftones album ranking, or whatever you want to call it, which has been a couple episodes ago now. And I figured, you know what, we're about 4 months in. There's there's a lot of new albums out there that maybe you haven't checked out. I try to post as many of the ones that I am enjoying in the Discord, but, you know, some slip through the cracks. So we're going to talk about a couple here. And then I have a tale of when I was almost a DJ. That was almost my profession. And then, we have the Hall of Fame, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame tier list, which I'll explain a little bit later. But essentially, it's any band that I know of or have listened to their music has been put into a tier list, and we're going to sort them. Probably make some people angry with some of my takes, but that's just the way the world works. And I decided to omit any band that I had not listened to or had not heard of, which is very, like, it's not a lot, but it's also, like, a good amount that, you know, instead of there being, like, 100 entries, there's, like, 70 entries, you know. Because there's so many people who do tier lists, and they're like, oh, I don't know this, and like half the tier list is like, I don't know, or haven't listened to them, or haven't eaten their, you know, whatever they're doing. So many people have that category, and it's just filled to the brim, and there's like a couple in the other tiers. Who that's not interesting. It's not interesting for me to go, oh, I don't know who, or I've never listened to, I can't even think of a band I haven't listened to. I don't know. We'll just pull. Let's just say I had. Let's just imagine a world where I haven't listened to Smash Mouth, okay? and let's say like every single band is like a band that I like. It's just not interesting content, folks. And if you're a person who does tier lists and you do that a lot, let me tell you, I don't think people are enjoying if there's like 15 entries in the don't know, haven't heard of category. That's just me. Am I already making people angry? I don't know. It doesn't really fucking matter at this point. Alright. Well, anyway, we're going to jump in today. So I've kind of redesigned the studio here. I've made things a little bit smaller. And I've also plopped the desktop. Oh, that's not the right one. I've also plopped the desktop into the background so that it's not... So I'm still here, the logo's still here, and the background is fine. So I'm going to take a sip of water. If you don't have water, tea, coffee, hot chocolate, maybe, you know, you take some time, go and get something to sip on while we talk. Personally, I have water. Alright, the first band I want to talk about is right here. I wanted to pull up the band's Spotify page just in case I can't pronounce the bands. Or if I need a little refresher on how the album sounds, because I've done that before where I've started talking about a band and I'm like, oh shit, I'm not talking about the right band, am I? And I listen to a song and it's like, oh no, that's not the right band at all, you know? But Ryujin, Ryujin, their self-titled and first album came out, I think a couple months ago at this point, and this is a heavy metal. I mean, I'm gonna sound like a broken record by the end of this. Heavy metal, screamo, but also with some Japanese flair in there. Some classic Japanese instruments thrown in about. But it's mostly like dirty vocals and heavy guitar riffs and slamming drums. But they have a lot of fun songs. I would say about half the album I really enjoy. The other half is like, it's good, you know. If you want to check that out or check them out, I think their album cover is also pretty freaking sweet, if you ask me. Yes, I mean, you know, I don't want to play too much, but, you know, it's kind of got like a Dragon Force feel to it, except with dirty vocals, you know. So if you like that more melodic sounding metal, this is definitely going to be a band for you. There you go. Next up, so far the front runner for one of my favorite albums this year is Judas Priest's Invincible Shield, which came out most recently. And when you go into a band as, you know, when you listen to a band as seasoned, I don't want to say old, but as seasoned as Judas Priest, you don't expect the quality to stay as high as it has been. Even though I agree with Anthony Fantano in his review, I think that their last album was better. This one is also quite the banger. It actually rivals some of their earlier stuff, in my opinion. Now, I don't think this is gonna, you know, dwarf over their Painkiller album or anything like that, but it's definitely a good time. It's a good listen. They still can shred, you know, like they have really good solos in there. The vocals are still really good. They can, you know, Robert Halford can still hit the notes, hit the high notes, even though he doesn't do it as often in most of the songs. There are times where he's just going all in, and there's passion behind that. There's passion behind the music, and that's what that's what you really want to hear in a band that's, you know, like I said, as seasoned as Judas Priest is. What the heck are these messages? I haven't opened Spotify in, I think, like 5 months on my computer. I listen to it every day on my phone, but, you know. So, yeah, I mean, that's what you want to hear, though. Like, there's other bands that have put out albums after their prime, I would say, that they just don't sound like there's a lot of... It just sounds like an album that they made for a paycheck or something like that, you know? One that's on the tip of my tongue is Pearl Jam, even though I enjoyed a lot of the stuff that they did after their grunge days. They definitely, you know, I would even say Green Day at one point kind of sounded like they were phoning it in. I think they kind of turned it back around, but I mean, there's a time where like Uno Dos Tres came out, and then whatever album preceded that, and I felt like they weren't really trying, you know. But Judas Priest didn't do that. Judas Priest, they still have a lot of passion. They can still play incredibly well. And if you haven't listened to Invincible Shield by them, you're doing yourself a disservice. The last album by them, let me just double check what that one's called. The last album that they put out was also really good. Where is it at? Not that. Firepower. This one was also like this one was better in my opinion. It was really, really good. This one is just, you know, Invincible Shield is just really good. So it's still good. It's still great, but, you know, yeah. And like I said before, it's not going to rival like Painkiller or Screaming for Vengeance or whatever, you know. But it's still very good. I still really enjoyed the work and that they did put into it. Deftone fans, open your ears. Profiler. Not exactly Deftones, but they have a similar sound. Not throughout the entire album, but there are points where you go, oh, that sounds a lot like Deftones. But then there's other points where you're like, oh, that sounds like Hollywood Undead. And those are the points where I don't really vibe with it. But most of the songs on here are really good. This is the album A Digital Nowhere, and Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's got like a Deftones sound to it at times, which I really enjoy. Then there's other times where it does get a little bit more into like the new metal type era. And I know Deftones was labeled as new metal. We've already been over this. I feel like they're more alternative metal, which is I think more accurate for their sound compared to other new metal artists out there. But A Digital Nowhere by Profiler it is good. And I would recommend at least try it out, dip your toe in, see if it's something that you like. I mean, the magazine that I read, Metal Hammer, they always put like the little like, if you like, these bands, you'll like this one. And a lot of times it's like something that a band that I've never heard of, but I still like the band. And in this case, all three of the bands that they labeled in the magazine for like, it sounds like this, were all three bands that I knew. So went into it kind of expecting what the album was, and I don't know, did I say that right? I went in expecting something, and it was that. Does that make sense? All right, Job for a Cowboy. Now, they've been gone for a little while, and their new album called Moon Healer is fantastic. They're like a electronica kind of metal band. Maybe, I think sometimes people call them industrial metal as well. And this album's really good. I think we should boost these numbers on Spotify here, because this one really hits in all the right spots. It's got the technicality, it's got the weird electronic bits that sound like robots are scissoring backstage. It's got obviously this is a very, it's a heavy metal, dirty vocalist, screamo kind of band. But they know how to do it, and like I said, it's been a while since they put out an album, and I didn't really vibe with their earlier work, but this one definitely has the vibe to it. Definitely has the vibe. It definitely has the good sound. So if you want to check it out, I would recommend that, because it is very good. Next up is the only EP on here. Ailstorm put out the Voyage of the Dead Marauder EP, which I was pretty excited for. The Voyage of the Dead Marauder song itself is really good. It features a female vocalist for, I think, like the first time in Ailstorm history. Maybe we've had them before, but no, we have. It was yes, I do. Okay, so second time. That song is really good. Voyage of the Dead Marauder is really good. Uzbekistan is also a really good song. Sea Shanty 2 is a instrumental track. It's pretty good, The last Seka Shawian Pirate is also pretty fun, and then the final song on the EP, Cock, is it's the usual Ailstorm flair. Not as good as maybe some of their other more like goofy songs, but still pretty good. I think that right now what's happening in Ailstorm's voyage, you might say, their journey as a band, and as a person who's been with them since Black Sails at Midnight, it's hard for me not to overlook the fact that a lot of the albums that they're putting out are a bit samey as the last one. And to put it into perspective, No Grave But the Sea was the first album that they did with a new lineup, and the songs had a nice vibe to them, but a main theme of a lot of the songs on the album was the verse is sung by this lead singer, then there's a bridge where the screamo, the dirty vocal guy comes in for like a half a second, and then the chorus starts. And that's just something that's kind of been in the last two Ailstorm albums, where it still sounds good, but it sounds like something that I've already listened to in a way, because there's a few songs on the last Ailstorm album that also did that, where it's like verse, bridge with dirty vocals, and then into a chorus. And same thing with Curse of the Crystal Coconut. They had a couple songs like that. Another thing that has also been kind of bugging me is, they do like this chip tune section to a couple of their songs. The first one to do it was Mexico on No Grave But the Sea, and it was cute. It was fun. I enjoyed that. They've done it on every album since then. They've had a chip tune section or an 8-bit section, whatever you want to call it. And even though it's still fun and it's lighthearted and I like it, it's just overplayed at this point, which is unfortunate because I feel like the band is really hitting their stride since No Grave But the Sea. I felt like No Grave But the Sea was a bit of like a, oh, we can still do this type of thing. And then Curse of the Crystal Coconut came out, and their last album, which was Seventh Rum of a Seventh Rum, was really good. And I was hoping that they were going to be able to keep the momentum, but with this EP, it's still great. I still like it. You know, it's not like I hate it. It's just I'm noticing that, you know, if they don't change up the formula for the next album, it's probably not gonna be one of my favorites, you know, going forward. But it's still a fun Ailstorm album. It's or EP. I'm sorry. It's still a fun Ailstorm EP. It's got some good stuff in there. I have a shirt coming for the band for this album or EP. Fuck. So yeah, there you go. That's my little mini Ailstorm side rant there. Let's move on. Another really this is another album that I think is really good. Once again, these Spotify numbers, we need to boost those up because this is a really great album. This is Big Scenic Nowhere's The Way Down. The way on the way down. Not like that. So this is I described it in the Discord as like a slowed down Mastodon, and it really does feel that way at times. Essentially, the band itself sounds very similar to Mastodon, and the lead vocalist does sound at times a lot like the vocalist of Mastodon. And the songs take you on these adventures, kind of like Mastodon does. They're, you know, 5 to 7 minute long songs that really evolve and grow as you go through them. It's a bit of a shorter album, but the songs are really good. They got a great flow to them. It's kind of got like a stoner-ish vibe in there at times as well. I would say try this one out. I think that it's probably gonna be one of my favorite albums this year if I keep listening to it over other ones. Yeah, it's a very good time. I guess you could kind of. No, I was gonna say Between the Buried and Me is way more aggressive than this band. This band is much. It's like I said, it's a laid back Mastodon. It doesn't like it gets chugging away sometimes, but it's never as intense as something like Mastodon. So, but I think it's cool. I think it sounds great. This is also a band that's been around for a while, but I hadn't checked them. I hadn't really known about them until this recent album. So there you go. All right, next up, Neck Deep by Neck Deep. It's always weird when a band does a self-titled album a couple albums in, but you know, I guess every band.
Let's go.
Every band has to do it sometime. Tiny Moving Parts did it a couple years ago. Neck Deep's got to do it this year. This is a great pop punk album. It's kind of like a heavier punk, I guess, at times. Yeah, I mean, most of the songs on here are bangers, if not all of them, really. The one problem that I do have with the album is a bit one note. You can like go into a song and kind of, you know, go into like the middle of it, and it might sound very similar to the next song on the album. The lyrics are different, and some other things are different, but it does have, it does have a bit of like a problem with not having enough variety in the types of songs played. Now, I don't think that's not a terrible thing, right? I can definitely get over that because the album is that good. You know, it is a really good album still. But you know, in terms of like albums that I'm always thinking of my top 10 list, whether it be for video games, movies, or music. I do put that into consideration is, you know, if I listen to this album, do I get an experience while listening to it along with just having good songs on there? And the experience with something like The Way Down or Invisible Shield is a little bit more, it morphs more, the albums sing more, I guess you'd say. The albums just have more variety to them than something like this. And like I said, it's still a great album. It's just a bit one note. The songs do tend to sound a little similar through multiple listens of the album. But I'll still I think I've listened to this album like 10 times at this point, you know, just driving around. Like, it's still a great album. And I do tend to go in maybe a bit too negative into my talks about things that I like, but you know, sometimes you just gotta get that off your shoulder, and then you can talk about the good stuff, because the good stuff is that lyrically this is... Oh my god, I just spilled my water everywhere. Well, that was literally the last thing I needed to happen today. Yeah, that was a full glass of water. I don't know how it happened, but muted? Heard something? Wait, what? Check. Hello? Yeah, so that was a full glass of water. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that happened. I was just reaching over for... I don't even know why I was reaching over, but I put my water kind of in like the perfect spot for me not to be able to see it when I was moving my hand, so... Yeah, not really what I wanted to happen today. Man. Alright, the show must go on. Alright, yeah, I was about to say, Neck Deep's songwriting is the strongest that it is here on this album. Lyrically, it's a great, like, it's a really well written album. On top of it just being a musically good album. Yeah, my only gripe, I guess not really even gripe, my only small criticism is that the album just feels a bit one note. Alright, moving on. This was one of the first albums that I posted in the Discord this year that I said highly recommend. Well, I guess I didn't say highly recommend, but I said that, you know, I said, I think you're gonna like this, which is like a line from, I think it's Tenacious D in the Pick of Destiny. Suffer and Become by Vitriol. This, if you like heavy metal and screamo, or dirty vocals, I guess you could say, because screamo kind of, I guess screamo is like the wrong word to say for just bands with dirty vocals in general. This is definitely like a, it's more like a, man, it's kind of like Bone Crusher, which is kind of like a super heavy, maybe like even like a Monomarth. I think they call them, what do they call those kind of bands? Not folk metal. Man, yeah, kind of scrambled now. Anyway, it's not exactly screamo. When you think of screamo, you think of like a you know, emo band or whatever. You know, it's not like that. It's got dirty vocals over a very heavy backdrop, very fast and heavy, kind of speed metal. God damn. Speed metal. So this is, I mean, at this point I think this is definitely a shoe-in to get onto my top 10 albums for this year already. It's got everything that I kind of want from a band like this. It's got the heavy riffs, it's got the solos, it's got the like incredible drum work, it's got the lyrics to it, it's got the cool album artwork, you know. Yeah, it's just a very power metal. No, power metal is more like Sabaton. Yeah, it's definitely more like a, well, let me just play a little bit and you can get an idea. Yeah, it's speed metal. It's definitely speed metal now that I reset my mind and I'm thinking about the right band again. I mean, I was thinking about the right band before, but yeah, it's everything that you kind of want from a speed metal band. And if you want to check that out, you know, check it out. What do you want me to say? Also, an album called Amongst the Low and Empty by Signs of the Swarm. I'm going to start off by playing a little bit of this one. So it's, if you don't know what that is, it is djent. Essentially popularized by Periphery. Djent is it's like a melodic kind of metal that uses polyrhythms and odd timing in the songs. A lot of times they have the dirty vocalist, as this one does. It's just it's a fun album to listen to. It's kind of a bumping album to listen to. I'm not going to say that every single song on here is amazing, but it's good enough that I would definitely recommend anyone who likes djent to check out. I think that most of the album is pretty good. Yes. Once again, I mean, the numbers are actually pretty good on this one. Over 2 million plays on the starter song for the album. Arguably, I think these numbers kind of make sense because I think it really is kind of like around here that I thought that the album was going a little bit, you know, kind of to mediocre, but it's a good album, so whatever. This is a newer one, Love and Rage by the band Shooting Daggers. This is the first album by them. They've done a few EPs, but this is an all-girl, like, heavy punk band. So essentially, it kind of sounds like punk mixed with you know, a bit of that heavier sound that you would normally hear in like a metal or hard rock album. Thank you, Xbox. Definitely needed that. Love that. Let's snooze notifications. Thank you. So I was kind of thinking about it, and I think it's like a combination of Bikini Kill and L7. It's like a combination of those two bands. It's kind of got like the band-esque of Bikini Kill with more like the song structure of L7. You could also say like, hey, maybe it's a bit Go-Go's inspired. I don't know. It's not like poppy like that though. It is definitely like a hard, heavy punk. It's good though. I really liked it. You know, I'm not always the biggest fan of like a female lead, you know, singer in metal. It's just kind of, you know, I'm not trying to be sexist or anything like that. I don't normally enjoy that vocal range with heavier music, but it really works here. And there's a couple bands that I could name that I do like that have a female vocalist, but yeah, it's just my taste. I'm just, a lot of times if it's a female singer in like a heavy metal band, I don't usually vibe with it as much. But this band works really well. It works really well, and check it out if you want to. Shooting Daggers. And finally for today, we got the Sweet Smell of Unrest by Baratro, not to be confused with Balatro. Once again, I mean, goddamn, another album that just barely has any plays to it. I've listened to this entire album, so there should be at least one play here, by the way. But yeah, they're like, I forget what exactly they were described as. It's like a hard rock metal, kind of like that. I don't normally sway towards these kind of bands that are a bit muddy in terms of their sound. This one, I think it's pretty good. I think it's pretty good. Not my favorite thing ever, but I think it's still it's a decent album, and yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about it. It's just in general a good time listening to this one. You know, obviously everyone's music tastes are different, so, you know, if you don't like something that I've suggested, oh well. Also, I know that there's other albums that have come out in other genres. Just FYI, I'm not huge into most popular genres. I'll listen to stuff, sure, like, You know, last year I was very surprised at how much I liked the Genesis Owosu, and there's of course other similar bands and artists as well. But for the most part, if I'm listening to music, it's usually metal. But I do stray into other paths. I mean, especially when I was younger, I was listening to a lot of different things. Like there's still stuff that I'll pick up nowadays from, you know, I mean, there's a whole list of songs that I enjoy in the Forever Banger section on the Discord. Yeah, nowadays it's I do kind of stay in kind of a lane, you know, but I will spread my wings if I so desire. So yes, there you go. All right, let's have a full reset here. Get a drink, put the glass in the normal place for when I'm streaming, so I don't forget that it's there. How's everyone doing today? I hope everyone's well. I had a bit of a rough day, and tomorrow's not going to be any better, I can already tell. Oh, but we keep going. We keep going. My birthday was Monday. Oh dear. My birthday was Monday. Had a good time. We went to eat with Greedy Waffles yesterday. That was good. Yes, no, that was good. Got a nice burger. I had in general, I had a good birthday. It was good. It was a good birthday. Fun times. Fun times at Bell. Let me talk about how old I am for a second, as I talk about my aspirations. About, let's see, 10 years ago, I'd be 21, 11, 20. So yeah, it was right around 19 years old, which is about 13 years ago at this point. I was still living at my parents when I was 19, and I don't know, just thinking about things that I wanted to do, like what I was interested in. Because after high school, they kind of, you know, I don't know, not everyone's parents are like this, but you know, my parents kind of expected me to go to college and, you know, have a major and do whatever. And I just didn't know what I wanted to do. Coming out of high school, I really wanted to be a writer. You know, write for newspapers or for big publications or write books, you know. And obviously, I mean, that's not going to bring in the money, you know, as my parents would say. They wanted me to be other things. And like my mom wanted me to, I don't know why. She wanted me to either be a priest or a welder. And I had no interest in either of those things. Let me be honest. I had no interest in either of those areas of work. But my dad was a DJ back when I was a kid. So like back in like late 90s, early 2000s. And he had a ton of CDs, and he had like you know, he had the 2 big speakers and like a, you know, one of those soundboards, and you know, there was the tray, you know, the CD changer and all that. It was kind of old school, right? And I always loved messing around with it when I was younger. So, you know, I was kind of in college. You know, I was at a local college at the time. You know, one of those smaller places, community colleges, and I was just kind of studying. I was going for like a degree in the arts, which is just like a generic blanket kind of thing. I was taking a few classes in these subjects and a few in these subjects, some IT classes. I didn't really know what I wanted and what lane I wanted to go in, and I never really did find a true major that I wanted to study in. But there was my dad's DJ set, so. Yeah, he wasn't using it. He hadn't used the DJ set, and boy, I mean, at that point, he stopped doing that when I was like 8 or 9 years old. So it'd been a while. It all still works, of course. So yeah, I just set up in the garage, and you know, I was just testing, mixing, and matching songs. It's not like DJs nowadays where like you're expected to have like the you know every single sound effect in the world and a bunch of like backing tracks and instrumentals laced together and party beats and stuff like that. I think that would be fun to do for sure, and it definitely is an art form to be able to do that kind of stuff. But I was more so like in the realm of like radio kind of airplay, where you kind of, a song is starting to end and you would start another one that matched the tempo and the general vibe of the song, right? So the first event that I ever, because I did DJ a little bit, okay? DJ Fuzzy Fuzz, or DJ Fuzzy, was my old DJ name. I think I did 3 events in my span of being a DJ, and the first one I did was my grandpa's wedding. We had lost my grandma, in 2005, and my grandpa was being remarried in like 2013. The dates are a little bit hazy in my head. So at the reception, I was, it was my first gig, DJ, and I was told kind of like the general list of old oldies but goodies, Frank Sinatra and all that. And of course, I didn't 100% follow that, of course, but essentially like, it was, Frank Sinatra mixed in there with a little bit of Van Halen and some popular songs at the time. Like, I remember when I was growing up, I think I talked about this during my physical media discussion, but I had a lot of physical CDs. I must have had about 100 and something physical CDs on top of all the CDs that my dad had, which was also like I would say he was more like, God, 500. I mean, just the amount of CDs was crazy. So I had like all these like mix and match bands from the old days, and just stuff that I was into from the new days. Like, I had band, obviously I had like the general like Red Hot Chili Peppers, Nirvana, etc. But then I also had like the more niche stuff like The Sleeping and Gallows, and I had like a whole plethora of Ailstorm albums and Weird Al Yankovic, So my stuff was a bit all over the place. And at this time, we had we had synced all the CDs, or whatever it was called. We had put them all onto the computer, and I had transferred the entire catalog onto my laptop. So instead of using the big soundboard for like fading in and out of different CD tracks on a CD player, I was using my laptop with some software on it to fade in and out of things, make edits and stuff like that. And I was getting pretty competent when I was doing it on my own. So, here we are at my grandpa's, and I'm playing Fly Me to the Moon by Frank Sinatra, and then, I move it into Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls, and then I'm like, and here's something completely different, and I play What Does the Fox Say? Kind of expecting people to go from the more slow dancing vibe to actually, doing a bit of a different dance. But at that point, the stage, the floor had pretty much dispersed once I started playing that song. And it was very popular at the time. Okay, it wasn't like an out of left field kind of thing. But that's the thing about being a DJ. You kind of have an ebb and flow. If something doesn't work, then you try something different. So next up, I did Pretty Woman by Roy Orbison and some Elvis, and the crowd kind of got back, and then from there it's like, okay, whatever. But it was decently fun, I suppose. But it was also, a bit of hard work. And then the next thing that I did was I DJ'd at my friend's party. He wasn't living alone, but he was living with his dad at the time, and his dad was off on vacation, and he was like, do a party. So he was like, okay. So here we are. I move all my stuff to the house, and I set it all up, and I'm ready to do like a DJ set, and I got all my songs picked out, You know, I got my Avenged Sevenfold and 3 Days Grace and My Chemical Romance all laid out. And about 4 songs in, a group of people started watching the TV that was right in front of me instead of doing anything else. And they kept turning the TV up louder and louder and louder. So I said, fine. So I just put on a playlist that I had, turned down the music, and just went about the party and did my own thing. I got paid for my grandpa's thing. I didn't get paid for that party because it was a friend thing. So I said, whatever, you know. But I wanted to just kind of, you know, test the waters, see how it went. And, you know, ended up just kind of being like, okay, whatever, you know, did whatever, let a playlist play, leave it be. And yeah, is it kind of rude that people were turning up the TV at a party that was supposed to be like, hey, we're having fun? I don't know. Maybe it was. Maybe it wasn't. All I know is that kind of was like the start of the downfall of me wanting to be a DJ, because the next part, you know, the next thing I did was my cousin's wedding, and that was the final DJ event that I did. Because let me just say, the whole DJ thing isn't fun when you don't like the music that you're playing. So when you got, you know, I'm not a big pop fan. I'm not a big, you know, popular, you know, poppy music kind of fan. I mean, I'll listen to some hip hop and stuff here and there, but it's a lot of the older stuff. So, you know, when my cousin is asking for the latest of pop hits and country hits, I was like, I have this stuff, but I freaking hate this stuff. So that was, I mean, I got paid pretty well for that. I think it was like a $200 gig. That's pretty good. Pretty good money for, you know, a weekend of work. But at that point I was like, yeah, this is probably going to be like 90 to 95% of the things that I would do if I started to like actually advertise instead of it just being word of mouth, right? So I decided to lay down the turntables and not go into that. And then there was a while after that where I thought I was going to get into broadcasting. I had checked out a local school in Cleveland for broadcasting. But once again, when I went to that school, there was like the classrooms were filled. And it was just a bunch of people wanting to do the same thing, getting into radio and DJing on the radio. And I was like, this is too many people. Like, maybe one of these people will get a job in the industry, and the other ones are going to be looking for other work. Like, that was in the back of my mind. And I mean, I still was like, I was like 19, 20 at the time still. But that was pretty adult thinking there. I saw the writing on the wall that there was way too many people in this business for what already was starting to diminish. Like, radio is still pretty big, but I mean, I haven't listened to an actual radio broadcast, like, legitimately while I'm driving. 6 years, 7 maybe. It's all Spotify and Bluetooth speakers and stuff like that for me. I mean, I know what radio stations are around here. Like, I could name like 3 radio stations off the top of my head right now. I don't listen to them anymore, and part of that reason is that I got annoyed with the music that were playing. They were playing all the same stuff, no matter what channel you were listening to. The one channel, which was more like the heavy channel, WMMS, it was more like, okay, so we got some Slipknot mixed in here with, you know, the other kind of like stuff, you know, mixed in, but it was all the same songs. You know, it was Chop Suey 5 times a day. It was Enter Sandman 50 times a day. It was, you know, Paranoid 100 times a day. It was just the same music over and over and over again. It really got boring. And when you switched over to another channel, it was kind of the same thing, just with some different bands. There was a mix station that supposedly played everything, but they even had like a commercial that was like, we play everything except for, and then they played like Slayer and they played some other heavier bands, and I'm like, well, then you don't play everything now, do you? You know, but the mix was all the same stuff over and over and over again. It was, it was just really got annoying. And then my last hope was the oldies station that played stuff from like the 50s to the 80s. And once again, I had to have heard that the Edmund Fitzgerald song like 100 times in one sitting while I was driving the work van that day, and I was like, this is just not gonna cut it. Like, what are we doing here? And the reason why they play the same songs over and over again is because when people hear those songs, when they're scrolling through the radio, they stay on it for the song, right? That's the whole thing. It's about getting people to listen, retention and stuff like that. Which is why, you know, it kind of translates over to the live streaming element that I do now, and the podcast element I do now is if someone flips around in a podcast, you want to make sure that everything you're doing is interesting. If you know a topic that you're talking about is at least interesting, to hopefully they stop on it and listen to it. Same thing with live streaming. If you're a person who's just sitting there and just playing a game without talking, and the gameplay is just any old other game that you might see on any other channel, like, I mean, I've seen people play Batman Arkham Asylum so many times on Twitch at this point, it's a bit nauseating. Okay, still a great game, but still, the point stands, you know. Are you going to watch the person who is playing Arkham Asylum for the 50th time and in a millionth time on Twitch who is not talking? Or are you going to watch the person playing Katamari Damacy who is having fun and entertaining the chat and doing stuff in chat? You be the judge. There are people who do want that other experience. Don't get me wrong. There's a place for that kind of experience. There's a place where, you know, there's plenty of people on YouTube who just want the gameplay. They don't want the commentary. They don't want the personality. They just want the gameplay. And I get it. I understand. There's different niches out there, but to me personally, I do put a little bit of that DJ radio work into the stuff that I do, because there was a time, probably about 2 or 3 years of my life, that I thought that was what I was going to be doing. Yeah, it didn't work out. Didn't really work out. It wasn't really what I wanted to do. You might be asking, well, Yummy, I mean, what do you want to do? And it's like, well, right now I have a stable job. It's not the most fun job ever, but it's stable. It makes good enough money, and that's all that I can really ask for. And if I want to, I could change it up. You know, I could change it up, but there's been times where I've been close to quitting. It's sure, but you know, for the most part, it's fine. It's a decent job and good pay. But the thing that I was thinking about recently was like, boy, if I had thought of this back when I was good, you know, choosing a college to go to. I mean, I didn't have really good grades in anything except for history. I could have been a history teacher or something. Kind of a missed opportunity for me there. I mean, I love history. I love talking about history, learning about history. I mean, I have several books laying around about things like the Titanic and World War II and pirates and stuff like that. So it would have been something that I would have been very interested in and happy to teach. But I'm not really the teacher type, though. You know, I admittedly am a little bit quick to anger at times. I've been trying to work on that, and I don't think that I would work well in a high school environment as an adult. I think that I probably would be shorter than half the student population, but it's still something that I probably would have, if I had realized that I loved history enough that I would want to teach it down the road. It's definitely something that I would have gone to college for at the time. Especially because I really didn't, you know, you can't go to college to do some of the things that I wanted to do. And at the time too, I wasn't like thinking about video game development or anything like that. I was just kind of like, I play video games and I talk about them and, you know, whatever. So that's that. All right, we're gonna go ahead and, holy shit in my pants. What is this? Squid Daddy, thank you for the 10 gift. 15. No, wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, thank you for the 10 gifted subs. Thank you so much. Happy birthday kiss. Thank you for the birthday subs. I appreciate that. I don't know who most of these people are. I think Why does Twitch do that? 9 out of 10 people are not here regularly or at all. Well, I really appreciate that, Squid. I really do. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. I love you too. How are you? I hope you didn't get the ick from the ick from PAX again. You can't say the name because you know, YouTube will be like, hey, or Spotify will put the COVID tag on it. Oh, I said it. Oh well. Wow. Squid didn't get sick from PAX. It's a Christmas miracle, folks. Well, let's continue on with this train wreck of an episode, huh? You have some PAX stories for me? I would love to hear them. We can plan to have you on the podcast next time. I don't have time today because I didn't eat dinner. But I can plan to have you on next week, 2 weeks from now. I'll send you the deets. No, we're not ready now. We're moving on to the final topic for the day. This episode has been a bit of a train wreck. I will be honest. I'm not super happy with the way that's turning out right now, but maybe we can turn that all around right here, right now. I just want to make some people angry. I'm just waiting for for Twitch to ban my account from my chat logs. Well, if you do that, then I can't have you on. Twitch just updated their settings. Not only you can't have the person on your stream, but you can't actually watch content from that person either. So if you recorded videos, I can't show them on Twitch. You know, if SS Sniper Wolf can still be on YouTube, then you can still be on Twitch after all that you've said. All right, let's get into it, folks. Let's get into it. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I've talked about it before when we talked about Weird Al Yankovic and why he should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And Callus and I we actually recently went together to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It was a great time. Loved that. And I thought, since this is kind of like a music-themed episode, I thought I would go through all the different bands and artists that I know that are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and put them into a tier list. S being, I love them. A being, I like them. B is like, wait, no. Okay, let's hold on. S is I love them. A is I really enjoy them. B is I like them. C is I'm indifferent or, you know, whatever. D, I don't like them. F tier, I really don't like them. Let me just preface this by saying that I think that all the bands and artists that I'm about to talk about deserve to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for one reason or another. I'm not saying that they should take any of these people out. I'm not saying that they should, you know, never have been inducted. This is just my personal opinion on these artists. And, you know, the reason why I'm talking about them is because they've already had their success. They've already been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So it doesn't matter what I think, because I'm just one person on the internet making a stupid tier list on his podcast. So let's get started here. So when I pull up one of these images, I'm just going to put them immediately in the C tier so I can talk about them, and then we'll place them accordingly. Okay? So the first person here is Chuck Berry, who obviously is a big name. It actually was one of the first people inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. This is back in 1989. I'm not gonna have facts for everyone. I apologize. Chuck Berry is a whiz at playing guitar. I enjoy his songs. I'm not gonna pretend that I'm like a huge fan, but I am gonna say that Chuck Berry is at least a B tier in my eyes. Catchy tunes, catchy riffs. You know, part of that big band era that I do really love the big band era sound. You know, and yeah, I mean, you know, he does. He's kind of like an all-in-one package. He's got the performance down. He's got the skills. He's got the vocal range. Maybe I just haven't listened to enough Chuck Berry, but B tier sounds about right for that. Next up is Fats Domino, and probably no one knows this, but I'm actually a pretty big fan of Fats. His music, once again, it's like a big band music. He plays a killer piano. I like Fats Domino. I really enjoy his stuff. Is it S tier? Do I love him? I don't know if I love him, but I do really enjoy his music. I think that he's definitely an A tier on the list here. And folks, we got a lot to get through here, so I'm not gonna sit on an artist for too long, FYI. But we do have a lot here. I have, like I said before, I axed any bands or artists I don't listen to, or I never listen to, or like I don't know them, you know. So that takes out a category that I was complaining about a little bit earlier, where it's like a lot of people do these tier lists and they have like a couple in A and S and B and C and D, and then there's just a whole like 50 things in the haven't been there, haven't listened to them, haven't eaten there kind of category. It's just kind of annoying. So I've already trimmed the fat for y'all. Speaking of fat, no, that's a bad one. That's a bad transition. Elvis Presley. Do I respect the guy? Yeah. Was the movie good? No. The one thing that I will give to Elvis is that without him, other artists like Little Richard and Fats Domino and Chuck Berry might not be in the spotlight as they are without Elvis having personally mentioned that they inspired him and helped him get his career going. So you know, that's kind of like, that's nice, you know. But personally, Elvis's older music, I'm not really into his older music, you know. Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog and all that stuff. And some of the newer stuff that he was doing later in his life, it's more like a ballad situation. You know, I'm not a super big fan of Elvis's music. I think that C tier is a good place to put him because I'm like kind of indifferent about him. Like I understand, you know, I like his songs. Yeah, I mean I'm a bit indifferent about him actually. Very influential, obviously. I think he was the first Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee. Obviously he didn't live to see it, but there you go. Next up we got Ray Charles, and I think C tier is a good place to keep him in. An artist that I have lots of respect for, but I don't really enjoy his music. It's like got that, you know, it's like moody, it's like Motown, you know, it's like yeah, so some of his songs are a bit faster, but yeah, I mean, you know, I'm just not a huge Ray Charles kind of guy, you know. I think that once again, definitely deserves to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I'm not going to say this for everyone because I've already said it at the front here. Every single one of these artists deserve to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's just a matter of, do I enjoy them? You know, not too much. Boy, I'm not going to reiterate every artist here. A tier, we have Fats Domino. B tier, we got Chuck Berry. All right, next up we got who should we do next? James Brown? Yeah, let's do James Brown next. James Brown, it's tough because a lot of these older artists, like, I'm not super into, but I've listened to a lot of their music. James Brown is kind of everywhere. He's got a lot of range in his music, from like fun, funkadelic type things to kind of the more ballad stuff as well. Once again, I think C tier is a good place for him. I'm kind of indifferent, you know. I kind of enjoy what he does, but it's not an artist that I'm gonna go out of my way to listen to, like something like Fats or Chuck Berry. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep him right there. I don't have anything else to say. I guess I could just go straight on here. Marvin Gaye, long legacy of music, lots of fun music. I think that we have. I think it's like a B tier. I think Marvin Gaye is like a B tier for me because I enjoy his music. I should say I like his music. I think that he's got a nice vibe to him. You might be saying I don't think I've ever heard of a Marvin Gaye song. Yeah, you have. You definitely heard a Marvin Gaye song. He's got a lot of good stuff in his discography. A lot of C's. There's only 3 artists in C. I mean, we're only 5 bands and artists in. What do you say? But I'm about to prove myself wrong here. Bob Marley, pioneer in reggae. I'm just not a reggae guy. I'm sorry. I'm not a reggae guy. I appreciate everything that he did, and I think that his music is good, but in terms of, like, do I like the music? Like, am I indifferent? I'm not really indifferent. I actually don't really like reggae. I apologize to all the Bob Marley fans out there. There's plenty of them, but I'm just not a reggae guy, and, you know, maybe in another life, I'm putting Bob Marley into the S tier, but, for me personally, which is what this tier list is, I don't enjoy reggae. There's a couple songs that I enjoy by him that I've listened to, but for the most part, not big into Bob Marley and that genre. Some of these bands I gotta look up the picture because I don't remember who they are. Oh fuck. Okay, here we go. We got the Yardbirds. This is the Yardbirds. I should have pulled up like a list of their songs to like refresh my memory and your guys' memory. So the Yardbirds are a band that came over with the British invasion, kind of like the Beatles. And oh, what's some of their big songs? Oh yeah, these I apologize. They are still like a Beatles type band, but they have actually some really good music. Now that I'm looking at it, have you ever heard "A Train Kept Rollin'" by Aerosmith? This is the band that originally played that song, and I gotta say I like the original version better than the other version. They also got oh man, okay, okay, I was wrong. This is not the band I was thinking of. They do still have a little bit of that Beatles vibe to them, but yeah, okay. I'm remembering now. I would put Yardbirds B tier. Now that I'm remembering who they are, they're not just the Beatles clone, or not really clone, but you know, they actually kind of. I mean, they got a bit of a heavier sound to them, honestly. The Yardbirds B tier. Who's next? Who's that? Otis Redding? Otis, my man. Yeah, I'm sitting on the dock of a bay. Decent song. The rest of his songs, I don't really vibe with. This is gonna be my first. I dislike them. Not like them personally. I really I really don't like Otis Redding's music. Yeah, nothing else to say there. All right, next up. Oh man, I wish this website would, because I named all these on my document here. I named them all right here, but for some reason this tier list maker's like, oh, you want to see what the name of the picture is? Yeah, fuck you. I'm trying to think of who this band is. Oh, here it is. Pink Floyd. Oh yeah, Pink Floyd, everyone. Pink Floyd, obviously, really good band. They have at least 3 albums that I listen to almost every month. I mean, Dark Side of the Moon, obviously, that's like the basic bitch choice, and of course, The Wall is like the basic choice. But they got a really good discography to them, and they're also like a really interesting band to just listen to in general, especially some of their later stuff. Yeah, it's the first S tier. Pink Floyd, S tier. David Bowie. I recognize that man right there. I love David Bowie. This is like no contest. I would put David Bowie above Pink Floyd. He has such a very interesting timbre to his vocals. He inspired my songwriting a little here and there throughout my time listening to him. He was always so creative in every endeavor that he did. His final album, Black Star, just so memorable. Easy S tier for me, going up to the top there on the S tier rankings there. Next up, we got these lads. The Kinks. The Kinks. Famous for My Sharona. Boom, 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 boom. But, yeah, I think C tier is a good place for them. It's another band that I'm kind of indifferent to, because it's like they have some good songs, but it's not a band that I'm like clamoring to listen to, you know? It's also one of those bands that I felt like, sure, they deserve to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, sure. Compared to some of the other bands we talked about already, they did not have the same success as Elvis or Pink Floyd or David Bowie or even Bob Marley. But they're a band that decent, you know. They have a good vibe to them, but you know, I'm not going back and scrambling to listen to them, you know. I'm not going head over heels to check out the Kinks in 2024. Nor was I doing that back in like the 90s either. Anyway, let's see. The next band has a banjo. They have a banjo. They have a banjo. Where's this band at? Where's this band at? Oh my goodness. You would think finding a banjo in a freaking picture would be easy. Where's this freaking banjo at? You know, I think... Here they are. Jefferson Airplane. Oh boy. So this is like the first band that I avidly dislike listening to. I would say I'd rather listen to Otis Redding over Jefferson Airplane. There's gonna be a couple bands like this where they have a very specific like psychedelic rock style to them that I personally just can't stand, and Jefferson Airplane is kind of like right up there with like the not the Yardbirds. Well, a band that we'll talk about later, I guess we'll say right now. The Beach Boys. Famous for their surfer rock and their harmonies and their zany antics of their lead, their lead singer. Made a concept album. The rest of the band wasn't really into it. Personally, if we're talking about bands that are kind of annoying but also kind of good, Beach Boys is kind of right up there, because even though, like, I think that there's a good amount of songs that they have that are relatively annoying, for every annoying song, there's also a song that's very catchy. Like Good Vibrations or Kokomo, or, you know, insert Beach Boys song here. In terms of, like, bands that I'm a bit indifferent to, honestly, I would put them above Ray Charles and James Brown and the Kinks. Because I think that I'm pretty torn. Like, there's some stuff that the Beach Boys do that I, like, really like, and then there's some stuff that the Beach Boys do that I really don't like. Kind of more indifferent about them. I'm in the middle there. All right, next up we got some more lads. Oh, this okay. I was just talking about bands like this. This is the Byrds, spelled with a Y. This is another band that is it's kind of psychedelic. They got that Changes song, or no, Turns. There is a reason, yeah, that band. Another band that I just really can't stand listening to. I could listen to them more than the Yardbird, or no, the Jefferson Airplane. But yeah, this is the band that I don't really like. Don't really like. Okay, next up, this is a pretty easy one to identify. The Jackson 5. Y'all are gonna be really disappointed when I say that I'm not a big fan of Jackson 5. Michael Jackson's music, yeah, I like Michael Jackson's music. Not a huge Jackson 5 guy. I think that it's too cutesy, you know. It's too, like, kiddie. It's like a kid rock band, you know. Do 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 do. Not that I don't hate them. I just kind of dislike them. I put them right next to Bob Marley. Next up, we have Billy Joel, famous for Piano Man and other classics that I really enjoy. One of my favorite songs from him, oh man, it's been a hot minute since I listened to it. What's the name of that song? I'm, like, blanking right now. I need to pull up a list of his songs. I'm sorry. I say that I really enjoy him, and then I don't remember his fucking songs. You know what? We're on the spot right now. You know, you know what? You may be right. That's the one. I really like that song. Oh, you know, I may be right, or you might be wrong. Whatever. I like his music. I like Billy Joel's music. I think Piano Man is way too overplayed, but in general, I like Billy Joel. We'll put him right next to Fats Domino there. Next up, Earth, Wind, and Fire, disco band. They have, like, one, you know, very famous song, September. There's a couple other ones in there as well. In terms of disco era bands, this is probably the best of the disco era has to offer. That being said, it's a good band. I like it a lot. I like Earth, Wind, and Fire, actually. I do. There's gonna be another disco band on here that I'm going to get physically punished for disliking so much, but Earth, Wind, and Fire, enjoyable, really good music, just enjoyable music. You know, is it timeless? Maybe not, but it's definitely, like, songs of the era, like that disco era, and they're fun. Janis Joplin. Once again, very good performer. Has done did a lot of good work. Gone too soon. I think she was like 21 when she passed, or something like that. Or maybe she was like 25. I can't remember. I like a lot of her songs, but I haven't listened to her enough to be like, oh, I like her. I'm kind of indifferent. Probably would put her right around there. The Beatles. Oh, y'all are gonna hate this take, but Beatles, fuck the Beatles. No, I'm kidding. I'm a Beatle head. You know, I'll admit it. I enjoy the Beatles' work. Their early stuff is fun. It's catchy. Their middle stuff, where they were all on drugs, was good to great. And the stuff that they did at kind of the end of the band's career, like the White Album and Let It Be, are some, and also Abbey Road, some of my favorite albums, like top 100 albums there. I think there's like 3 there. While My Guitar Gently Weeps is my favorite of the Beatles works. I'm sorry, the White Album. I singled out the song on there for some reason. And I think that is because of My Guitar Gently Weeps. It's just such a great song. The rest of the album is also really, really good too. Very experimental at times. I mean, the White Album came out at a time when heavy music was really like starting to get along, and they did Helter Skelter, which I think really helped popularize the heavier sound. I really do love Let It Be too. I actually might put Let It Be over the White Album. Abbey Road is good. I mean, I really enjoy that one. A lot of their other work is also really good too. I think there's really no other place that you can put the Beatles unless you're just like hating for haters' sake. But S tier, at the top of S tier, is rightfully so where they go. I mean, there's an era of the Beatles that you're gonna like. I can almost guarantee it. If you don't like the early stuff, you'll probably like the middle stuff. If you don't like the first or the second stuff, you'll probably like the later stuff. You know, they definitely have a broad repertoire of music. And the movie, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, yeah, like a 3 out of 5. Alright, next we have Eric Clapton, who has a lot of soulful songs mixed in with some really good guitar work on his other songs as well. Seems like, you know, songs like Cocaine, and stuff like that. Really good stuff. Not as big of a fan as like Billy Joel or Fats, but still really like his stuff. In terms of like, you know, from his time in Cream to his time doing solo work, I definitely like his solo work more than Cream. Next up, oh, I'm probably gonna catch some flack for this one. Van Morrison. Van Morrison, not a big Van Morrison guy. Probably put him right above Bob Marley there. It's just it's too formulaic. It's just a general rock sound, which is still like fine. It's good, but I don't go out of my way to listen to Van Morrison any more than I have to. Stevie Wonder. Now, I think that Stevie Wonder was a really cool dude. I love watching like videos of him and interviews with him and stuff like that. He's very passionate. He's got that really good R&B sound to him. Not my favorite artist, but I would definitely put him below Marvin Gaye, but above the Yardbirds. I do really like Stevie Wonder. His stuff is really good. Next up, let me just double check, make sure that this isn't a different band. Yeah, okay. This is Led Zeppelin. We've got Led Zeppelin here. Led Zeppelin is just a bit overplayed nowadays. Going back to my talk about radio and getting bored with radio, one of those bands that was always constantly played on radio next to like Metallica and stuff was Led Zeppelin. How many times do I gotta listen to the Immigrant Song before I start thinking that's annoying? And it's not that many times, to be honest with you. It's still a great band. I still really enjoy them. This was one of the first like heavier bands that I started listening to when I was younger. But nowadays, I still enjoy them. But it's just been their big hits have just been overplayed to nauseating degrees, which is why I'm going to keep them in C tier at this point. Definitely top of C tier, but what are you gonna do? All right, next up we got the Bee Gees. Speaking of the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band movie, these 3 lads played the roles of 3 of the Beatles next to Peter Frampton. And we're going into the disco era that just is freaking annoying. I think they have, like, when they're not singing higher than their mother, they're, like, when they're singing, like, normally, they have great voices. But gee dang, if they just aren't the, like, one of the most annoying bands on this list, I'm not even gonna joke with you. Well, I think it's more annoying than the other bands in the early, you know, British takeover. I think that the Bee Gees right now are my lowest band. And like I said, I don't hate them. I think that they have good singing voices when they're just singing normally, but the second that they start doing the high-pitched shit, I can't stand it. It's just so annoying. So there you go. Next up, this picture has some color to it. Ooh, Fleetwood Mac. Ooh, man, I love me some Stevie Nicks and Fleetwood Mac. I mean, obviously, they have one album, Rumors, I think it's called, which is like one of the best rock albums of all time. I don't know how you would categorize it. It's kind of like rock-ish. Their other works are also pretty good too. Like in terms of like, sure, you have like the big hits, but then you also have like the good other works that they do as well. Fleetwood Mac, I think it's like an A tier. I know more Billy Joel songs than I do Fleetwood Mac though. Next up is, I believe this is the Rolling Stones. Yes? Yes. So the Rolling Stones, it's not like the same as Led Zeppelin, but it's kind of similar where you know, how many times do I gotta listen to Sympathy for the Devil before it starts to become annoying? It takes a little bit longer for the Rolling Stones because they do have a lot of great songs. One of the first songs that I heard by them was Sympathy for the Devil. But they also have they also have a lot of other good songs as well under their belt. They kind of like did a weird thing where they released like a new album and then they did the Super Bowl show and they played 3 songs and one of those songs was from the new album. Like, who wants to hear that? But in general, Rolling Stones, a good band, bottom of B tier. Alright, next up we got the one and only Michael Jackson, formerly of Jackson 5. And I'm not going to say anything about him personally, but his music is really good, right? He was dubbed the King of Pop, of course, which is genuinely, like, who else comes even close to the songwriting, the dance moves, the performance, etc., etc. It's hard to top that. Personally, for me, I do like Bowie and the Beatles better, but Michael Jackson goes above the Pink Floyd on the S tier ranking there. In terms of music, not like personally, he'd probably be a little bit, he'd probably be much lower with the stuff that's come out about him, but musically, we're talking about music here, S tier. Next up, is that the Doobie Brothers? Let me see. No, that's a Creedence Clearwater Revival. Another pretty popular rock band. They've been, their music has been pumped into so many, like, Vietnam era 60s, or I'm sorry, 70s, period piece movies. It's not even funny. In general, I do like their music. It's got a lot of fun moments to it. I mean, just thinking about Fortunate Son, you can, like, just mentioning the song, you can kind of listen, you can already hear it in your head right now. They have a good selection of songs. I'd probably put them above Rolling Stones on B tier here, if this will work. Thank you. Next up is Cream. Speaking of Eric Clapton, Cream is, like, I think they're, I mean, I know they're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but I do feel like they're a bit underappreciated in the wide spectrum of the, like, classic rock era. I think, they have, like, Sunshine of Your Love, and that's, like, the only song that people think of when you say Cream. Personally, I think that they're like one of those really great classic rock bands out there. It's on the same level as Eric Clapton, honestly. Obviously, it's two different vibes, but Cream is a really good band. They have a lot of really good hits, and also underappreciated hits. Next up, I'm pretty sure this is Simon and Garfunkel. Yes, I can recognize that hair anywhere. Simon and Garfunkel was one of the first vinyl records that I bought. With their hit song Bridge Over Troubled Water. I do like them. I think that they have a good duet kind of sound to them, but I am a bit indifferent about them. Personally probably put them like right here on the C tier there. We gotta speed this up. Paul McCartney solo. Yeah, I mean, Paul McCartney has some good solo works. Not as like, you know, his time with the Beatles, I think, was obviously, like, how do you compare, you know? But in terms of, like, just, like, Paul McCartney's writing and performing in his other works, his other stuff, it's a B tier, bottom of B tier there. Next up. Ooh, man, what band is that? Next up is the Allman Brothers Band. I do enjoy the Allman Brothers Band. They got a bit of that country twang to them here and there. I think in general they're good. I'll probably put them above Paul McCartney there in B tier. Frank Zappa. This is an odd one. Frank Zappa, he's kind of like a crazy songwriter. Like, his lyrics are so weird and bizarre, and his like singing tone is very strange. His guitar work is really what boosts him up here, in my opinion. Like, the stuff that he does on guitar is like really, really impressive. Is it more impressive than Cream? Yes. Is it more impressive than Fleetwood Mac? No. I think that Frank Zappa goes right above Cream there. Frank Zappa has like a couple of like no nonsense like banger songs on his Apostrophe album that you kind of have to ease yourself into it, because like I said before, he does have like a weird he's got a weird voice for singing, but that guitar sings for him, really, in all honesty. And next up is Johnny Cash. This is kind of like Elvis. I appreciate all that he did for his genre, but I think keeping him at the end of C tier is where I'm going to keep him, because I'm kind of indifferent about Johnny Cash. He's got some fun songs in there in his repertoire. The one song that I know is a cover, but probably my favorite by him is his cover of Hurt, which was a Nine Inch Nails song. So I'm kind of indifferent about him. Steely Dan, famous for, the guitarist at least, sitting during a whole performance. Steely Dan has a lot of fun songs, Reelin' in the Years, etc. I really enjoy Steely Dan. I think they got a really fun sound to them. They are the first band to dethrone Fats on the top of A tier there. Next up, who is this? Should be pretty obvious who this is. Where the hell? What the hell? Is it the Doobie Brothers? It is. With the way that this tier list thing does it, it makes everything into a square. So right now we just have one guitarist from the Doobie Brothers. The Doobie Brothers also have some slappers of songs. Not as slapper as Allman Brothers Band, but when you hear a Doobie Brothers song, you always kind of get grooving to what they're doing, which is why they're going to be at the bottom of B tier here. Next up, this is Queen. I'd recognize that man anywhere. Should I even say how good this band is? No, I don't need to say it. Another band that has a great discography, a very versatile discography as well. They have a lot of different styles and music in there. Obviously, they the popularization of like the kind of opera-ish type stuff that they were doing in their career is also like very cool to learn about. I don't like them as much as any of these bands in A tier, so I will put them at the top of B tier, simply because I enjoy Queen a lot. I like a lot of their songs, but honestly, looking at my A tier, I don't think I enjoy them more than any of these bands up here. So there you go, Jimi Hendrix Experience. There is no contest. This is an S tier band, short-lived band. I'm gonna put them above Pink Floyd again. Jimi Hendrix and his bandmates, just anytime you listen to a Jimi Hendrix song, it's just such a fun time, you know. Like when I played like Rock Band and Guitar Hero religiously, the Jimi Hendrix songs were the ones that I picked because they were so fun to play. When I was playing drums in my basement, I would play Jimi Hendrix songs, the Experience songs, because they were fun to play through. Just a great band all around. Next up, The Doors. Oh, The Doors. Jim Morrison, great singer. Another like gone too soon kind of scenario there. The day destroys the night. I do like The Doors a lot. But not as much as my A tier bands. Again, I would probably put them above Chuck Berry there in B tier. Next up, I recognize these guys in the suits. The Temptations. This is a very soulful band. They have a lot of like ballad type songs to them. Not as good as Earth, Wind and Fire in terms of I guess they do have pretty good harmonies in there. Probably put them above Beach Boys there. Next up, what band is this? Next up, I mean, this is a pretty unique picture. I don't really have too many that look like this. Ah, the Eagles. Hotel California and all that stuff. Genuinely good band. I enjoy their stuff. Let's put them above... let's put them above the Yardbirds there in B tier. Next up, we got another band that has a colored photo, which I don't have a lot of those, so it should be easier to find. Right? What the heck, man? What the hell? What band is this? You see, I should have done this with music. I should have like played a bit of their songs. I would immediately know who they were if I did that. It's not Journey. Oh, what the hell, man? Oh, there they are. Oh my god. Who are they? The Who. Who? I enjoy The Who. I think they got a lot of good songs. I am running out of things to say. I think that they are the bottom of A tier. Next up, this disgruntled-looking man, disheveled. This is the Grateful Dead. I enjoy their song "Truckin'." Most of their other stuff I don't like. Probably bottom of D tier. I like "Truckin'." That's pretty much the only song that I like by them. Sue me later. Bob Dylan. I love Bob Dylan's voice. I think he's got such a unique voice. Songwriting is also very much on point as well. That is A tier. I would put him probably right below Frank Zappa. Roy Orbison. I used to really love Roy Orbison. Kind of diminished with time. He's got a lot of good songs. It's got a lot of good tunes in there. I put him in B tier. Next up is Aerosmith. Aerosmith. I think Aerosmith is kind of like a C tier for me as well, but top of C tier really. They got their stuff. They got their good music. They got a great Guitar Hero game as well. Elton John. I do enjoy Elton John a lot. Is it S tier worthy? I think it's top of A tier worthy. I think Elton John's really good. I love a lot of his music. I think he's very good. John Lennon solo. John Lennon solo. Yeah, John Lennon solo. I mean, his one album that he did was decent. His Christmas song is kind of annoying. We'll put him right above Janis Joplin in C tier there. Next up is Bruce Springsteen, and we're just gonna lump in the E Street Band. This is another C tier kind of band for me. It's just like that general rock. It's good general rock. I would probably put him above, probably right below Elvis there. Bruce Springsteen. Why is Earth, Wind, and Fire in here twice? I don't know. We're not gonna sort them again. Eric Clapton's also in here twice. And Michael Jackson. And Paul McCartney. What the heck happened? Can I delete them? I don't see how to even delete them. Well, we're just gonna forget that those are there. Alright, who is this? Who are these lads in the leather? They're not the Ramones, are they? No, the Ramones are leaning up against the building. It's not Tom Petty. The Clash. Ah, yes, the Clash. Pioneers in Punk. They have some really... I feel like this episode is just such a train wreck. I'm putting them above the Yardbirds in B tier. The Police. I am not a person who really enjoys the Police. I think they got some good songs. The Police just didn't know how to frickin' finish a song. Every single one of their songs like fades out. It's so annoying. I think that they have a couple good songs, but most part I'm not a huge Police guy. AC/DC, known for their wild and crazy guitar solos and antics. Before Brian, what's his name? Before the newer singer got there, I liked them more. Unfortunately, you can't rewrite history. But now with the new guy, his vocals are just not my favorite thing ever. Still a good band. I'd put them above AC/DC. I'm sorry, I put them above Aerosmith and C tier. Let's see. Next up is that Talking Heads. Okay, Talking Heads. I think you all know where Talking Heads is going. This is one of my favorite bands. S tier for sure. Not much else to say there. ZZ Top. ZZ Top. I used to really like them. Probably put them in C tier here above Elvis. Led Zeppelin I think is better. Steely Dan is here again. Prince. Prince is another S tier. I think he's not as good. I don't like his songs as much as David Bowie, but I do really like Prince a lot. Why are there so many? We have Queen here again. What the hell, man? Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. If you've not listened to what I've been saying in the past, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers is one of my favorite bands of all time. Not as much as Jimi Hendrix, I would say, on this list, but I do really like Tom Petty. I was fortunate enough to see them live back when I was in high school. One of my favorite concerts that I've been to. Next up, this is the Pretenders, I'm pretty sure. Let me just double check. I'm pretty sure it's the Pretenders. I'm like 99% sure. See, the way that I did this is I ordered them by which era they were inducted. So instead of it being by name, it's by what year they were inducted. So it's... I mean, in retrospect, in hindsight, pretty stupid way to do it. But also, I didn't expect it to be this difficult. Yes, it is the Pretenders. They got some good songs. Probably in their C tier for me. Who are they? U2? I think this is U2. Yes. I can recognize Bono's frickin' sunglasses anywhere. Yeah, I'm not a huge U2 fan. I think they have a good vibe to them at times. I'd probably put them above the Spinners, or the Temptations, I'm sorry, in C tier there. Because I think I like some of I like their one album with the kid on the cover is really good, but most of their stuff I'm not like super big into. George Harrison had some sort of religious revelation late in his career, and he just made like a whole album of religious songs. Not really my vibe. Better than some of the stuff in F tier. Yeah, the funny thing though is the free album I didn't think was even really that bad. Next up is Black Sabbath. Black Sabbath is definitely an A tier band for me. Probably above Steely Dan. They got so many good songs. Blondie. I do really enjoy Blondie. I would probably put Blondie in B tier for Blondie. Right above Chuck Berry there. What's next? That might be Lynyrd Skynyrd. There's a lot of people in this photo. Yes, it is. Lynyrd Skynyrd. Yeah, I'm gonna catch a lot of flack for this one. Not a huge fan of Lynyrd Skynyrd. Boy, would I rather listen to Van Morrison or Lynyrd Skynyrd? Actually, I'd probably listen to Bob Marley before I listen to Lynyrd Skynyrd. Put that right there in D tier. Next up is, I think this is Grandmaster Flash. Yes, Grandmaster Flash. This is like hip hop that I'm not like super into. I'm kind of indifferent to it. I think that other bands that we'll talk about in a little bit are better. I would probably put them below James Brown here. Not big into that band. Next up, who is this? It's got a guy playing it's the Sex Pistols. We're so pretty, oh so pretty, vacant. Not a huge Sex Pistols kind of guy. Top of D tier. I'd rather listen to them over Police. REM. They got some... I would say they have a lot of good songs. Some of them are a bit overplayed, like Losing My Religion and Stand in the Place Where You Live. But a lot of their songs are also really good. They got a lot of other songs that are a bit underrated. I don't know if I would put them above the Eagles or not. Nah, I would put them below the Clash in B tier here. Aerosmith again. Oh, who's this? I think this is Van Halen. Van Halen, decent Guitar Hero game. I'm kind of indifferent to them though. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. They got a lot of good songs, but I'm not a huge Van Halen nut. I would put them above ZZ Top though. Next up, Jeff Beck, Guitar Wizard. You heard of the Pinball Wizard? You ever heard of the Guitar Wizard? Speaking of Pinball Wizard, I would put him right above The Who and Eric Clapton, I think. Next up, Metallica. I ain't gonna lie, I'm not a fan of Metallica almost at all. I don't think they're F tier for me personally, but they're bottom of, I mean, they're better than Lynyrd Skynyrd, Bob Marley, Van Morrison, not Jackson 5 though. Well, yeah, Jackson 5. I've not liked Metallica for quite some time, which I know is kind of heresy coming from the fan of all things metal. But, and this is not just me like hating on something because because everyone else likes it. I just don't like their songs. I don't like the drums. I don't like the vocals. I think the guitar work is great, but yeah, I'm just not a fan. If you know me, you know I'm not a fan of frickin' Metallica. Next up, Run DMC. Hip-hop that I really enjoy. It's got a rock flair to it. It's definitely a band that I listen to every so often. Better than Fats Domino. Put them in A tier. Next up, the Ramones. Talk about one-note bands. This band really only knows power chords, but it's catchy. It's catchy as all hell. I'm indifferent to them, though. I would probably put them... I don't know. I'll put them above the Beach Boys. Next up is ABBA. This is going to be a fucking big surprise to everyone listening who has lasted through this abysmal episode. ABBA is damn good, okay? They got some of the catchiest freaking songs ever. It's going to be bottom of A tier, but ABBA, I actually genuinely love ABBA. The Stooges. I've never really liked the lead vocals on the Stooges. I know that his antics are crazy and wacky and wild, but I've really not liked the Stooges vocals. The band itself is fine. I probably would put him above the Police here in D tier. Next up, who is this smiling young gentleman? I should know who he is. He's smiling. He's smiling. Who is that? He's smiling. Oh, Neil Diamond. Yeah. Do I even need to say more? F tier. Above Bee Gees and the George Harrison experience. Yeah, Neil Diamond is music for old people who only listen to white musicians. Next up, Red Hot Chili Peppers. Gallus would hate me if I didn't put it anywhere higher than B. I'm gonna put Red Hot Chili Peppers in right below Queen. I like them a lot, but not that much. Next up is Heart. Famous for songs like Barracuda and Crazy on You. I'm gonna put them right below the Rolling Stones there. Hall & Oates. I love Hall & Oates songs. Not as much as any of those bands in A tier. I would probably put them above Stevie Wonder. Next up, Guns N' Roses. It's another controversial one. I really am not a fan of Guns N' Roses. I never liked the lead singer. Whatever his fucking name is, I don't even care. Slash is a great guitarist, but I felt like his work in Guns N' Roses, not amazing. This is like a D tier for me. Who's more annoying, Metallica or Guns N' Roses? Probably Guns N' Roses in my opinion. Next up is Rush. Prog rock aficionados. I like a lot of Rush songs. They do get kind of grating after a while if you listen to them for too long. Above Chuck Berry and B tier. Next up, who are these guys? Chicago. Chicago is an interesting band because a lot of their songs are really catchy. I'm not like a huge Chicago fan. I'd probably put them above Elvis though in C tier. NWA. This is another hip hop group that I actually enjoy. Not as much as Run DMC, obviously. I would probably put them. I'd put them right about there in B tier. Cheap Trick. Mommy's alright. Daddy's alright. We're going into B tier. Probably above the Yardbirds, below REM. Steve Miller, including the Steve Miller Band, genuine good rock. B tier again. I'd put them right above NWA. Next up, Depeche Mode. They're a really interesting band, but like not like my favorite. Probably put them above Rolling Stones there. Who's this? Leather Jackets. Who is that? He's got. They're smiling. So. Oh, this is T-Rex. If you know me, you know that I enjoy me a T-Rex song. They're fun. They're energetic. I actually would probably put them right below Black Sabbath. They're above Steely Dan. Next up is Green Day. Green Day has a bit of a love-hate relationship with me. I'm kind of indifferent about them because their early stuff is really, really good. Their middle stuff is also decent. Their later stuff has kind of been garbage. Right below Bruce Springsteen. Next up is Kiss. This is another band that I genuinely dislike, and more so than just dislike. I actually kind of genuinely can't stand them. Annoying personalities in the band, music that is just like, I mean, it's more about the theatrics, right? Which is fine. I don't mind that, but the songs themselves, I mean, Jesus Christ, dude. Yeah, I put them kind of up towards the top of F tier, I guess. Beastie Boys. Look, folks, I'm not going to be the one to say it, but I guess I am. Beastie Boys are S tier. They got so much good stuff. They have a really fun writing style. Their later stuff was just as good as their early stuff. It's an easy S tier for me. George Michael. Yeah, kind of indifferent about George Michael. I'm going to put him right above Johnny Cash there in C tier. Next up, we have some guys playing instruments on a stage. Dire Straits. I do love me some Dire Straits. Probably a B tier type band. They got a lot of good music. I'm going to put them right above Chuck Berry in B tier. Next up, Nirvana. Obviously, I like Nirvana. Short-lived career. 3 good albums. I'm going to put them right below Blondie here. Next up, is this Pat Benatar, or is this... Who is this? Yes, it is Pat Benatar. She was also inducted with her mate as well. I didn't really feel like it needed to be said that Pat Benatar is the main pool of that band. I'm gonna put her right above Bruce Springsteen in C tier. Next up is, oh man, who is this? Oh, this is Bon Jovi. Okay. Yeah, I'm not a big Bon Jovi guy. I guess I would listen to them over Metallica. D tier. Sorry. The Cure. The Cure is a really interesting band. They're not S tier, but they're definitely like lower A tier. They got a lot of interesting songs in their discography. We got the Zombies. This is a Beatles-esque band, British Invasion type band. they really only have one hit, which is She's Not There. And the only reason I know about that song is because we played it in marching band. Personally, I don't think... I mean, out of all the bands we've talked about, I think the Zombies are kind of like the ones that slid into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame without much pomp and circumstance. I don't hate them, but I think that they're definitely like lower D tier. They're just not unique at all. Okay, next up we have Stevie Nicks solo. Indifferent. I'm gonna put it right by Janis Joplin. I think they'd be friends. Next up. Genesis. Land of Confusion. Genesis is great. I put them in A tier. Genesis, though, probably right below Fleetwood Mac there in A tier. Next up is Electric Lights Orchestra, ELO. I'm indifferent. I'm thinking bottom of C tier there. Judas Priest. In terms of these bands here, they're definitely higher up here. I really enjoy them. They're right next to Black Sabbath. Below Black Sabbath, though, in A tier. Stevie Ray Vaughan. One of those country kind of sounding artists that I actually enjoy. Let's put him above... Let's put him above Paul McCartney there. Next up, we have the Go-Go's. We got the beat, we've got the beat. Besides from that song, they also have some decent stuff. I would put them right above Pat Benatar. In C tier. Next up. I'm thinking of just deleting this episode after I hit end stream. I'm going to be honest with you guys. Who the heck is this? He's got like a striped shirt on. He's got like a striped shirt. Where the heck is a striped shirt? I'm going crazy. Is that Deep Purple? Yes. Deep Purple. I have a deep love, but not like love for Deep Purple. I think they're a good jam band. Right above Run DMC, below Steely Dan. Journey. They got that one hit, but they also have a lot of other good songs too. Right above Roy Orbison, B tier. Willie Nelson, Indifferent. Right above Johnny Cash. Not George Michael. Johnny Cash. Next up, Joan Jett and the Heartbreakers. Indifferent-ish. Above John Lennon and the Beach Boys, I guess. Below Ramones. Next up. Where are these guys? Grabbing a pole. They're grabbing a pole here, folks. This is Def Leppard. They're good. They're good. I'm kind of in the indifferent zone. Above Led Zeppelin. Next up, Eminem. Honestly, I'm indifferent about Eminem. I'm going to put him at the top of C tier just so Callus doesn't eat my children. Lionel Richie. Bottom of B tier, in my opinion. Radiohead. I would say Radiohead is above Billy Joel here. Next up. Who are these dapper lads? They got that Flock of Seagulls haircut there. It's not the Cars. Oh, this is Duran Duran. Yeah, I don't think anyone knows this, but I'm actually a pretty big Duran Duran fan. Not like big enough to be above. Yeah, Probably not above Fleetwood Mac. I put him right above Frank Zappa there in A tier. I like Duran Duran. This is Peter Gabriel. I'm gonna put Peter Gabriel right next to Genesis, simply because I think that their works are kind of interchangeable in a lot of ways. Next up, colorful band here. This is the Doobie Brothers. Didn't I already rate the Doobie Brothers? I think I might have accidentally rated the Doobie Brothers when I wasn't supposed to. Well, they're B tier. I don't know. They're in B tier. Whitney Houston. I'm indifferent. Above the Beach Boys. The Cars. I'm a Cars fan. B tier on this one. Above Earth, Wind, and Fire. This is the Spinners. The Spinners, not as good as the Temptations, but they're like literally right there next to them. Where are the Temptations at? There they are. Put them right there next to them. Pearl Jam, Heave and Flow. This is a really good band. Above Steely Dan. B tier, Ringo Starr. S tier, Ringo is amazing. Sheryl Crow. I'm kind of indifferent to Sheryl Crow. I think above... I'm thinking right above U2. Nine Inch Nails. I don't know if you guys know this. I'm not a big Nine Inch Nails guy. I find most of their music kind of unlistenable, but I appreciate what they did for the music as a whole. I'm sorry, it's D tier. Next up, who is this? They got a lot of long hair. Yes, this is Yes. Another prog band. Yes is decent. I would say I'm kind of indifferent. I would say better than Aerosmith. And next up is the Foo Fighters. I used to be a really big Foo Fighters fan. Now I'm just kind of a fan in general. I would put them... put them right below The Doors. No, below Blondie in B tier. Next up is Rage Against the Machine. Man, B tier is so full. But I would also rate this as a B tier band for me. Put them right above Nirvana. And finally, we have Alice Cooper. In 8, I would put him in A tier. I would probably put him right below Billy Joel, honestly. No, I would put him below Fleetwood Mac, actually. And just so you know, I'm not being like crazy. I'm gonna move Ringo. I'm moving Ringo down a few tiers here. He's bottom of B tier. I like Ringo a lot. I think I would also put Lionel Richie above Roy Orbison, honestly. And the rest of these are just bonus extras. Okay. Okay. There you go. Will I be saving this episode? Yeah, I'm not happy with this one. It's kind of been a train wreck, I will be honest. But let's go through these bands here real quick. We got Talking Heads, Beatles, David Bowie, Prince, Michael Jackson, Jimi Hendrix, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Pink Floyd, and the Beastie Boys in S tier, which I'm good with that. A tier, Elton John, Black Sabbath, Judas Priest, Pearl Jam, Steely Dan, Rush, Run DMC, Fats Domino, Radiohead, Billy Joel, Fleetwood Mac, Alice Cooper, Genesis and Peter Gabriel, Duran Duran, Frank Zappa, Bob Dylan, Cream, Jeff Beck, Eric Clapton, The Who, ABBA, The Cure, and I think that's all we really need to go for, because these are the top bands here. I'm definitely gonna catch some flack for some of these takes, but honestly, like, there's some stuff that I say like I don't want to listen to, and I'll turn off if I hear it. this F tier is pretty much it. I mean, you know, honestly, I feel bad having Otis Redding in there because I don't think he's that level. Let's put Otis right next to Bob Marley there. I think this is better now. This is better. Because these two bands, the Byrds, right, and Jefferson Airplane, super annoying. George Harrison's solo work, not my favorite thing ever. Neil Diamond, honestly, fuck Neil Diamond. I'm putting it at the bottom. Like I said before, it's old white people music. It's not good. And Kiss, I just don't like Kiss. I really don't like everything about the band is just not my favorite thing ever. Starting with their personality, like the Gene Simmons, yeah, he's fine, I guess, but yeah, I just don't like the band. I don't like the music. D tier, it's just kind of like, you know, some genres that I don't like to listen to, and just some stuff that I just don't like in general. Like I said, I appreciate all these bands' contributions to music. Don't get me wrong, but personally, if we're talking like bands that I don't like or I try to avoid, yeah, Nine Inch Nails is in there. I just don't like Nine Inch Nails' style. I don't really like them. The Stooges, The Police, the Bon Jovi, Metallica, Guns N' Roses, Jackson 5, which I upset fellow about, Bob Marley, The Grateful Dead, Leonard Skinner, Bee Gees. Yeah, it's just bands and genres that I actively like don't want to listen to. But F tier is like, I will turn that off. I will say that I don't like them to your face. So there you go. That's that. Closing out. All right, folks. Have a good night. Hope you all have a better time in the next episode. This was not my strongest. It's kind of started off on the wrong foot when I spilled that water and never really recovered. And that's why we have probably the lowest viewer count that I've seen in a while now. So before I embarrass myself any further, have a good rest of your night. Thank everyone who came by and showed up. Appreciate that. I will talk to you all tomorrow. So long.